So it's been a hot minute since we discussed Digimon Adventure on the channel. In fact, it's been 3 weeks. Just got a little busy and then kind of Digimon episodes stacked up until I had enough time, and honestly I thought it was going to be longer than 3 weeks, but I'm glad to be back talking about this new reimagined version of the Adventure anime, because honestly, the episodes have been really good. Episodes 6 and 7 were more or less pretty formulaic introduction episodes to Joe and Mimi, nothing extraordinary, nothing horrible. Good enough introductions. I'm sure people who've never seen the original Adventure anime will probably really enjoy them because you get introduced to 2 new characters. You might be a little put off by Joe, you might be a little put off by Mimi, or you might eat them both up. For me, they pretty much functioned exactly as I remember them, so it didn't do anything to really shock or awe me, but I was glad to see them finally join the crew, even if Joe does annoy me at times with his just how he's gonna be the leader and then how he gets so terrified anytime there's true danger. You know he eventually goes places, but the intro can be a little rough for his character, but I mean, his Digimon is absolutely badass, so you can't totally complain. But this latest episode, episode 8, top tier Digimon episode without a doubt in my mind. Episode 6 and 7, the only reason I'm really titling this 6, 7, and 8's review is because if I just do episode 8's review in the title, people are going to be confused why I never touched upon it. Like, truth be told, even if I didn't fall behind on Digimon, I don't have a lot to say about 6 and 7. They were solid. That's basically what they are. They reintroduced 2 iconic characters. I think they did a solid job reimagining their introduction. You had the Mimi content, which was pretty adorable, with her little army of Digimon. And then, of course, you had our boy just studying, basically, for his exams. It's pretty much what you expect from Digimon. It was good, didn't blow me away. It's a couple of fun action spectacles. But now that we're finally, the crew has been assembled, Episode 8 and the future of the show can truly take off, and it is looking rather bright, I have to say. What I really enjoyed is just how they did spice up the introductions in certain ways, like where we found characters, the fact that they all didn't just kind of come together, but also the fact that Matt's been a very mysterious character. I never thought he's going to be a villain, but I did like the whole solo angle that they did put him on, and how it's only now that he's actually a part of the crew. I actually really like how he was trying to tackle this alone and just kind of viewed other people as dead weight. I thought it was an interesting character arc. Just something that you knew wasn't going to last, but it was enough to give it an interesting flair, a little bit of edge to it. So as he's being sneaky and things like that, you have just the energy of Tai and things like that, just trying to be like, hey, let's all be friends, and he's like, get the hell away from me. You guys are dead weight. While I knew the episode was going to end in some way where he embraced the crew, I wasn't sure exactly the direction they're going to go, or what this episode in general was going to entail, and honestly, they brought their A-game in terms of spectacle, in terms of just the amount of Digimon and explosions. I'm not here to say it's the flashiest episode of all time, but at the same time, I did like the number of Digimon, the cannons and things like that, Gorilla shooting things with basically lights being shone on them. It was really cool. It was a fun fight. It wasn't the flashiest, it wasn't the most refined and polished. Hell, we didn't even get, Bergemon's transformation, things like that, while we still are getting Greymons. But still, it felt like this episode did have thought behind it. It just maybe the production didn't keep up with it as much as the storytelling did. But seeing the characters work together, really getting a taste of the teamwork for once, is what I want to see. Some people may argue it took a little while to get here, but at the same time, we are seeing things different quite a bit here. We're seeing the idea of the real world and the digital world kind of back to back. We still have our boy Izzy basically tracking the digital side as we have this whole Digimon adventure take place. They definitely are spicing up the formula. So even if some beats are kind of familiar with introducing Joe or introducing Mimi or introducing anyone and how they form a crew and how they fight together, it is nice seeing how they're getting to these points and really focusing on the Holy Digimon kind of plotline, the Chosen Ones, things like that. And it's giving it a very interesting feel that, on one hand, it feels very reminiscent to the classic Digimon feeling, but at the same time, it's doing things that I don't recognize at all. Granted, I haven't seen every Digimon anime. I know they're basically kind of picking and choosing from every series to make kind of like the ultimate original anime, but at the same time, it does feel like they're taking things in a very fascinating and new direction that probably does have some people questioning what they're going to do next, because even if you recognize certain elements, the fact that they're introduced now, it makes it hard to say what they're going to do next, which is pretty fun. It hits that nostalgia bias, but also it just does something that makes it feel good for newcomers as well. And honestly, for me, I'm pretty much a newcomer. I recognize the characters, I recognize quite a bit of the Digimon, but I don't know anything about the story details, and that's an exceptional feeling, because even though sometimes it is just the characters walking, or they're just kids, because they are young kids at the end of the day, there are these moments, especially towards the middle portion of this episode, for episode 8 and then towards the end, that it was just, they had to rise to the occasion, and there was a sense of unity and teamwork here that I really liked. Mimi and Joe just kind of on the sidelines, not doing anything. You're like, okay, we spent 2 episodes introducing these characters, and they're just gonna sit behind a rock. What are we going to do here? And oh man, Joe's just ruining it. He's getting basically shot down because he wants to wave the white flag. But then you start seeing things really start click, and that's where this episode truly kind of wrapped a bow into being one of my favorite episodes of Digimon Adventure 2020 so far. Not my favorite, but one of them for sure. It was nice having this basically start out as being, hey, we're going to have a lone warrior kind of do this himself, but knowing Matt was going to get his ass handed to him, especially considering the power imbalance. But then to see Tai, and then you have Sword just come in basically being distraction. I'll take this, you take Monkey Boy. It's like, it just feels like there's a bit of unity going. You're like, okay, but you still have the dead weight. And I love what they did with the directing. I'm not sure if they did this because they needed to basically be able to finish the episode. They did the slow-mo on purpose, or if they did just so they wouldn't have to animate as much. But I love the slow-mo directing because it gives it a sense of like, Matt for the first time is seeing things from everyone's perspective, that he's not looking at these characters as they're weak, they can't do things. Even if they do have their flaws, they're risking their life to aid me so I can get to this bastard and take him out. And I thought we were going to get his next evolution. I really thought that's what we were building up to, but they definitely teased us. They blue balls us a bit, but they still gave us that beautiful flame to just ignite him and give something that truly felt remarkable. And that's what I like. I've always complimented ever since the beginning that we saw these characters with their Digimon. It feels like they're more integrated into the actual action rather than being on the sidelines. They're always riding around on their Digimon. The fact that they travel on Joes, it's really great. It makes it feel like they're not just like in that Pokemon sense of they're just calling out attacks. They're actually a part of it. They're unified. It feels great to see that. And this episode honestly had the best unity to date because you had every single character do something. Even if characters were just running, getting shot at by tanks, it felt like the distractions were needed so characters like Matt could get into the objective and take him out, and what a way did he do it. I love the simplicity of it, but it's something that's practical. He covered up the lights so this little monkey bastard wouldn't be able to shine the spotlight on them, so then his Digimon could finish them off. That was great. It really did feel like it wasn't some bullshit. It didn't feel power of friendship. It didn't feel anything other than classic Digimon at its best. I absolutely love how it felt like, rather than just because he has friends now, he got the courage, but rather he recognized he wasn't at it alone, and just it was a sigh of relief that he didn't have to do this all alone, realizing that these people are competent, they are able to fight, and even if they're not the best fighters, they can at the very least be a distraction, which isn't the worst case scenario. And it really did feel like this episode, episode 8 of Digimon, took shape, and honestly, watching 6, 7, and 8 together, it actually was really nice, because getting the introduction of Mimi and Joe and then immediately being able to get this episode, it felt a lot more action-packed had I watched it week by week, I honestly believe, because having just intro episodes to characters, they're important, it establishes the cast, the world, things like that. But if you do have to wait a week, 7 days, it can be a little, be like, okay, no, not a lot happened, or what we did see, it just felt like, kind of like it was formulaic, or getting the motion set, understanding their Digimon, understanding their personalities. But watching them in a binge, honestly, they're pretty damn good, I have to say, with episode 8 clearly being the star of the show here. And I'm really excited. I really hope they continue this momentum, because now that the cast has been established, there's still going to be some classic Digimon shenanigans. Joe wanting to be leader, not really capable of being leader. A little weak-willed, Mimi kind of being the fashionista. Still, there's some things that we're going to recognize, but at the same time, now that they are together, there will be their ups, there will be their downs, but it does feel like the team has assembled, meaning things are really going to take off. Especially considering we end the episode with our boy touching and saying like, oh, this is important. And I'm really excited for that. I actually think the story in this season is really going to be really interesting, because while it did get quite interesting towards like the middle to end of the original anime from what I remember really enjoying the first chunk just because it was fun seeing the Digimon fight and just, you know, understanding their personalities, where with this one, it feels like, hey, we know you like the personalities, we're going to make sure the intros still remain with their core characteristics, but the story right from the beginning is front and center, and it feels like it is, and that's really impressive. The only thing that I would change about this anime project is I wish it was a bit flashier. I think, you know, it's partially due to time constraints, I'm not going to say it's not, and there's a lot going on in the world, but you can't deny that there is room to improve the visual production, but still, Digimon has not always been the flashiest thing, and we still loved it, so as long as they keep it at least the way it's looking, I'm going to continue to enjoy it. It's just I do hope we get to see Birdramon and other characters get their time to shine with their evolutions rather than simply just going back to Greymon, because the cast is interesting. Everyone has an interesting Digimon. Share the spotlight. I don't need to see every single character evolve, because it would just make the episodes feel padded as if we're seeing the same transformation scenes. I just, you know, spread the love. You had great Matt one. I want to see Birdramon. I want to see characters like that. I don't just want to see Greymon. As much as I love him and Tai, I want to see the love spread around. But honestly, I'm loving it. It's a great anime so far, and I'm really hoping they keep the momentum going. But as always, let me know your thoughts and feelings on most likely episode 8, but if you have some thoughts and feelings on Mimi and Joe's introduction episodes, do let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.